All right, so I've been asked a couple times about these different little photos that's been circulating around on social media, man. I'm gonna just get straight into it, and we're gonna go in the Bible and touch on these things, man. So this is one of the images that's been floating around. Got these different images with these UFOs and things of that nature, as the world called them UFOs, but we know exactly what they are. This image right here, you can say this is damn near like an image of the Exodus. I know a lot of people don't know about that, but this is an image of what people would call the Exodus. Most people don't know that when it said when Christ, it was like he was over them as a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. That was a spaceship. So I just want to, get that right quick before we go into the Bible, man. Let's get it. Because a lot of people been asking me about these things, man. So let's get into it. This is Psalms chapter 104 and verse 3. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, which is space. Who maketh the clouds his chariot. Who walketh upon the wings of the wind. So a chariot, a spaceship, in the scriptures, the metaphor used is a cloud. Let's read it again. Verse 3. Who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. So, throughout the scriptures, when you read about a cloud taking somebody up, or a cloud leaving or coming somewhere, departing or descending, is talking about a spaceship. This is Psalms chapter 68 and verse 17. The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. So it ain't just one or two of these things. It's thousands of these chariots, these so-called UFOs. Because when you heard about Swing Low Sweet Chariot, it's got to be a lot of different chariots if it's gonna come down and pick people up during World War III. Let's get the description of these UFOs. This is Ezekiel chapter 1, and I'm gonna start at verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. So I'm gonna get a clip. I'm gonna try to show a clip. I think it's from Independence Day. All right, so I'm gonna run through this clip, and we just gonna look at what's happening in this clip. So obviously you can see the shadows happening, looking like a cloud, right? You see the clouds? It's like a cloud coming over the whole city. Now pay attention when it get to a particular portion, when it started coming out of the actual cloud. This in the movie Independence Day with Will Smith. Cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. Pillar of fire. You see that? You see the color up underneath? You see the come up underneath? That's the color of amber coming up out of the cloud. But you see how the cloud it's enfolding itself. Watch this. Let's continue. Cloud enfolding itself. That is the imagery. Is a great example of this here verse. A lot of times, a lot of people don't be believing me when I be saying it. I just be saying stuff in regular conversation like, "Oh yeah, from this movie, that's a description or some imagery of what happened in the Bible." They be like, and just keep on, keep on going. But I want to try to include some clips in this video to show what I'm talking about. Let me read it again. Verse 4. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof as the color of amber out of the midst of the fire. So what Ezekiel is seeing right now is a so-called spaceship, a UFO, a chariot coming out of the clouds, and he's trying to describe it. Let's jump verse 16. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, and they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So when you go back to these different joints, right? A wheel within a wheel. If y'all can see that. A wheel within a wheel. Going back. Verse 17. And they went up upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. So the way that these things would go, like when you get in a car, right? You can't just go sideways front to be, like you have to turn to go where you want to go in a car. But these spaceships, these UFOs, these chariots, they went front, back, side to side. They didn't turn to get to where they going. Verse 18. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. Going back, he said they had eyes round about them. You see all those dots and those lights? You see those lights? You see that, like a wheel within a wheel? Let me see one. Like here. Had eyes round about it. Got those different lights at the bottom. Got those lights at the bottom. This is a good example. Had those lights at the bottom. Had eyes round about. Had eyes round about. Where we at? Verse 18. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful. They be up in the sky. They super high in the air. And their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And when the living creature went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creature were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them. For the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. So what is this saying? The angels was controlling these chariots with their mind. The angels was controlling these vehicles, these chariots, these clouds, these whirlwinds with their spirit, which is their mind. So an example of that is Okoye in the first Black Panther. She was flying that spaceship with her mind. That's the example. That is the example. We're gonna skip that. Let's go. Let's get some more. I'm gonna start at verse 6 just because I love the way it sounds. This is Acts chapter 1 and verse 6. When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? Because please understand, the kingdom of heaven is only for the Israelites. Only for the Israelites. That's it. Verse 7. And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the time or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power, but he shall receive power after that the Holy Ghost is come upon you. And ye shall be witnesses unto me both in Jerusalem and in all Judea and in Samaria and unto the uttermost part of the earth. Now, I just caught this. He said you're supposed to be a witness in Samaria too. So Christ was telling them, y'all got to go teach the northern kingdom of Israel. I just caught that. Verse 9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. So Christ, after he resurrected, he was dealing with the people for, I think it was a nice little time period after Christ resurrected. He was dealing with the people. So right here in verse 9, let me read it again just so we can get it again. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. So Christ was taken up by one of these so-called chariots. The metaphor for a chariot in the scriptures is a cloud. And a cloud received him out of their sight. Verse 10. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. So while they looking at Christ leaving in his spaceship, these two men were standing next to him while they were looking up. Verse 11, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. So these angels is telling these brothers who just watched Christ get picked up by a cloud, a chariot. They just watched him get picked up and leave in a chariot. He told them in like manner, the same way you just saw Christ leave, it's the same way he coming back. He coming back in a chariot. As these Caucasians like to say, an alien invasion. That's what it's gonna look like. That's what the movie Independence Day, it gave you a great visual of what it's supposed to look like when Christ returns. This is Isaiah chapter 66 and verse 15. For behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind. Now, we just read in Ezekiel what it looked like when the chariot came. He said a whirlwind. The fire was enfolding itself. That's what it said. Let's read it again. Verse 15, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many, because a lot of people will die when Christ returns. Period. A lot of people gonna die when Christ returns. So it's gonna look like an alien invasion when Christ coming through doing what he doing, especially in America. So in the midst of that, these so-called chariots, these so-called UFOs are going to be picking people up during World War III. Where we going? Second Kings. Listen to this. This is 2 Kings chapter 2, and I'm going to start at verse 1. And it came to pass when the Lord would take up Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went with Elisha from Gilgal. So Christ wasn't the only man to get picked up by one of these so-called UFOs. Elijah the prophet got picked up by a UFO. Let's get some more. Verse 11. And it came to pass as they still went on and talked that, behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elisha saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw him no more. And he took hold of his clothes and rent them in two pieces. So you got to imagine the sight for this young man to see his mentor, his spiritual father, get taken up like this. He like, oh, you know what I'm saying? He like, damn. So Elijah got picked up by a cloud, a UFO, a whirlwind. And a lot of people didn't like the movie Nope. You know what I'm saying? I didn't like the writing in it, but the imagery was great. All right, so we're going to check out this clip that's in the movie Nope. Let's get into it. Now watch how this man get picked up. Picked him up. You see how the air up underneath him made a whirlwind. It picked him up. You could see him spinning in that tunnel. Picked him up like a whirlwind. That's the same imagery. That's how it was written when Elijah was picked up. He was picked up by a whirlwind. Let's look at it again. A whirlwind. All right, we got another clip. This brother right here, you can see the whirlwind already starting up underneath it. See it like a small little tornado up underneath. This is the same. This is the imagery of what happened to Elijah. This is the imagery. I'm gonna see. I think I said something about the blue. I thought he had a blue shirt on, but he was wrapped up in a blue tarp. I think he's gonna show one more time. It's like a whirlwind. You see it, the whirlwind. This is how that air move up underneath. See how it's spinning? That's a whirlwind. I know we don't get taught this in the churches, but that's Bible. It is what it is. Look at that. As they say, that what the rapture would look like. They're not teaching that. They're not teaching that. It is what it is. So when you saw that quote unquote UFO, or they call it a creature in that movie, when it came down to pick him up, look what was happening to the ground? What was the air doing up under him? It looked like a small little tornado. It is what it is. Let's get some more right quick. I know they don't talk about this in church. They don't talk about this in church. This is Revelation chapter 11. I'm going to start at verse 11. And after 3 days and in half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So after this time period, the Israelites started waking back up in America. Once we start getting ourselves in order, that's what's going to bring forth World War III. Because what's holding back the destruction is the Most High waiting for the number of the children of Israel to be sealed. So, verse 12, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. So, when World War III hit, when these brothers wake up, it's gonna be a terrifying thing for these other nations of people. Like y'all finna start seeing these white people are not gonna be comfortable. These white people are not gonna be cool. These Arabs and Chinese and Japanese, they're not gonna be okay with all these black people waking up saying they the Jews. They're not gonna be okay with all these black people, these Hispanics, these Native Americans waking up saying, hold up, we the children of Israel, we gonna start keeping the law. So when they see us doing that, it said great fear fell upon them which saw them. Verse 12, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, because that's what our forefathers was singing about in these plantations, in these cotton fields. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Because during World War III, Lord's will, you get a ride. Because if you not, you was fitted to die here. Because when I make these videos and I say you're gonna die here, that's what I'm talking about. Not because everybody gonna die. Everybody's supposed to die. Everybody's supposed to, you know what I'm saying? But in the scriptures, in those days, you gonna wake your ass up to get judged. That's what the Bible say. I'm just saying. Verse 12, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell. And in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted, and gave glory to the God of heaven. Because it's gonna be a lot of war, a lot of bombs dropping, because that's where the earthquake's coming from. All these nuclear bombs bouncing off the earth, man. People gonna be dying, like the scriptures say in Psalms 91. You're gonna be having a lot of people dying at your right and your left, but it's not gonna come nigh thee, because he gonna give the angels charge over thee, and it shall bear thee up. Actually, let's go get it. Because that Satan said the same thing to Christ in Matthew chapter 4. He said, "What didn't, like, jump off this building right here? Don't the angels have charge over you? They ain't gonna let you fall." But that's not okay for you to think like that. It's verse 11, but when you read from, I'm gonna just read it all. This is Psalm chapter 91. I'm gonna start at verse 4. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Because keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments is the thing that's gonna help or put you in the line to get picked up by one of these chariots. This is where you're gonna get your protection from at the end of the day. Verse 5, thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day. These is talking about missiles. These is talking about nuclear missiles. Verse 6, nor for the pestilence that waketh that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. So my thought process is this: when I hear he said for the destruction that wasted at noonday, I'm thinking when Christ return, or when these bombs get to dropping in America, it's gonna be around the time where the sun is directly in the sky. That's just me when I read that. Verse 7, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. So what type of arrow is this? Because it just said an arrow. What type of arrow is this that 11,000 people dying? Let me read it again. Verse 7, 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because that's what it just said in Revelation chapter 11. Those same brothers, he said, come up hither. And they went up in the cloud. And these other nations, these other people, they gonna see them going up, right? We gonna be able to see what's going on. It said we're gonna be terrified when that thing popping off. Verse 8, only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked, because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation. How do you do that? By keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, and believing in Christ. It is what it is. You can't get around that. Verse 10, there shall no evil befall thee, nor shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling, for he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. They shall bear thee up in their hands, lest thou dash thy foot against a stone. So in that time period where these arrows is flying, thousands of people are dying, these UFOs, these chariots, these clouds, these whirlwinds gonna be scooping up people that's been keeping the way of the Lord. It is what it is, man. Let's get some more, man. This gonna be my last one. I know they ain't teaching this in y'all church. It is what it is. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. Because a lot of people, they think we crazy as hell. They don't understand why we do what we do. You know what I'm saying? People think that we take things too far. Why y'all teaching that Bible like that? Why y'all always going back and forth with people? Why y'all got what them things on y'all shirt? Why y'all don't do these things on Saturday? Why y'all don't? It's a reason for it. Y'all don't think what we doing has a purpose. The purpose behind what we doing is so we can get on them damn ships, man. It is what it is. That's where your salvation come from. The salvation come from you doing what Christ said. He said, if ye love me, keep the commandments. Matthew 19:16. How do you get into the kingdom of heaven? He told them, keep the commandments. Revelation 22:14-15. Those that keep the commandments is gonna be the ones that have right to the tree of life. Let me read it again. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5 and verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labors. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation, so far beyond all that they looked for. So a lot of these brothers and sisters that think, oh man, these dudes just talking crazy. They ain't none of that real. That Bible fake, man. Yeah. Listen, man, ain't no book more powerful than the Bible, man. And the problem that y'all having is the white man been trying to teach it to us for so long to confuse the people. But the problem is this: the Most High woke them prophets back up. It is what it is. We out here teaching them that Bible the way it's supposed to be broke down. That's the problem. Because very soon, it's going to be illegal to teach the Bible. Is it because of Christianity? No, it's because of these brothers out here teaching that Bible for what it really means, man. It is what it is. Let me read it again. Verse 2. When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. Because we never heard this in church. We never heard that that's what salvation looked like. We never heard that the salvation is going to be when these bombs is dropping all over the world. The ones that's supposed to make it, other children of Israel, they're going to get scooped and taken to the wilderness like in Exodus. That's what's going to happen. A lot of people don't know that. You're going to get scooped up and taken to the wilderness. I want to say that's in Jeremiah chapter 20. You going back into the same wilderness that they was in the book of Exodus. Because you might get scooped up and die in the wilderness. It is what it is. That's Bible. But it's strange for people to say, oh, it's going to be UFOs and chariots that like clouds to pick you up and take you somewhere. And I'm going to try to add some of these clips in here that I'm talking about too. The clip from Nope, the clip from Independence Day, so you can get the visual of what I'm talking about. But yeah, this Bible, a lot of people saying like you know what I'm saying, they want to see this. Do you really? Because to be a part of that, you got to do certain stuff. We never was taught that in the scriptures. We never taught that it was our job to usher back in the coming of Christ, because we had a job to do here for Christ to return. We just been going to church and on Sunday and laughing and joking and you know what I'm saying. People acting a damn fool in church. Let's just keep it a stack. It was a checklist that we had to fulfill for Christ to return. We had to wake our brothers up and teach the law. It is what it is. It is what it is, man. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. I'm out.